Part 58. The Koi Fairy Wife is Sweet as Honey, Love from the Koi Goddess. Author, Sushao Zhaji. Chapter 572. After hearing what he said, Yingqian smiled. Of course it will arouse suspicion, but it's only for a short while. She smiled softly. It's just a little magic with a vague memory. These people don't remember the specific details of what they saw. When they get home, they will only remember that they saw a very beautiful and wonderful scene. It's just a cosplayer. Small scene, don't worry. Lu Zhenjie. Okay, I underestimated the awesomeness of your Taoist masters. After the Temple of Light entered the arena, many Taoist forces from various places rushed over one after another. However, after witnessing the battle in the Temple of Light, even Lu Zhenjie developed a certain degree of immunity, barely able to stabilize any situation. Leaving aside some well-regulated things, there are still a few forces that have impressed everyone, and have been popularized by key science. For example, like the castle witches, they are all made up of women, from the Ice and Snow Goddess Temple in the Ice and Snow Country. The comment given by Yingqian is, the young lady who looks cold and indifferent, obviously practices ice magic, but when fighting, she is very irritable. Not to be trifled. There are also native Onmyojis of Sun Island, who are said to be able to communicate with the creatures and malfunctions between the heavens and the earth, and fight for themselves. It's also very mysterious and deceitful. Plus the previous bloodline and castle witch. Shui Liadao said, these four are more capable of fighting. Jin Li was a little curious. Well, the Temple of Light also looks very powerful. Yingqian smiled. It's an illusion, it's just an illusion. Think about it, there are 12 hours in a day, 24 hours, and 8 hours are spent sleeping, and half of the remaining 16 hours are spent maintaining one's body. Beauty and image, training magic wand, no, it's a group of male models with sacred temperament. What fighting power do you think they can have? Jin Li. She felt a little wrong, but I heard that the Temple of Light is not the enemy of the blood race. If they are so good, how can they become the enemy of the blood race? This Jing Yangzi interjected, it's actually very simple. Although the guys in the Temple of Light are a bit good, the light magic that can be practiced is the nemesis of many spells and magic, and the blood of the blood is naturally restrained. Another reason is that the Temple of Light can summon their envoys, and those birdmen are a bit tricky. Angel. Jin Li was interested in this, so she asked, is it a god from the heavens? Qin Jiangzi shook his head, maybe, there are no so-called angels in our world. They come from another world. But they are not gods, who can say clearly? After all, I have never seen our gods. When he said the last sentence, there was a trace of sigh and depression in his tone. They are Taoism, they say it is cultivation, and they say it is cultivation of immortality. However, no one knows what the end of cultivating immortality is. Can you really become a fairy? As in the legend, the heaven and the earth have the same longevity, immortality. However, among the recorded documents, no ancestors have ever reached that step. So, is it clear whether there are gods or not? Lu Zhenjie turned his head and looked at Jin Li silently. He said in his heart, yes. Next to you, there is a fairy standing. From heaven, really, little fairy. Jin Li glanced at Qin Jiangzi and said seriously, yes. Qin Jiangzi was taken aback, what? I said, there are gods, Jin Li said seriously. 6 more finished. Happy Dragon Boat Festival, big babies. Ask for a monthly ticket, see you tomorrow. The Koi Fairy Wife is Sweet as Honey, Love from the Koi Goddess. Author, Sushao Zhaji. Chapter 573. Qin Jiangzi was taken aback by Jin Li's rarely serious expression, and then smiled again. Fellow Daoist, Jin Li said, yes, so it must be. Jin Li snorted, although you said that in your mouth, you didn't mean it in your heart. Qin Jiangzi obviously doesn't believe that there are gods in this world, and these words are just to deceive people. Humph, is this also trying to trick Xiao Xianyu? It can't be said now, when she can return to the heaven, she must show off a wave of fairy strength in front of them, so that they don't believe in herself. The major power teams have entered the arena. Shui Liadao waved his hand, indicating that everyone can leave. Lu Zhenjia. No, is this meeting really just for us to watch other people pretend to be aggressive? Are you sure you don't need to analyze the enemy's composition, identify key observation targets, and formulate a special confrontation plan? He looked around and found that other people looked very relaxed, and no one seemed to have this question. Boss BA suppressed the strange feeling in his heart and chose to remain silent. The people involved don't care, he is a family member, why are he so active? Lu Zhenjia's and Jin Li's rooms were adjacent. As soon as the two walked towards their own room, they saw a man approaching the corner of the corridor. He has a handsome face and a feminine demeanor, with long blonde hair tied back. In normal times, Lu Zhenjia would only think of him as a good-looking man. But after experiencing many miraculous things, especially after seeing a large wave of wonderful humans just now, when Lu Zhenjia saw this man, his instinctive first reaction was to be vigilant. Moreover, Daoist Shui said just now that this building is the property of a very powerful family of Onmyojis in Sun Island. At this time, it was reserved by all the members of the Taoist sect. So, who is this person? This figure and temperament, is it the Temple of Light, or the blood race? The man's eyes lit up when he saw Jin Li. As for Lu Zhenjia beside Jin Li, he glanced lightly and saw that he was just an ordinary person, so he didn't care at all. Beautiful Miss Jin Li, long time no see. I am very happy that fate has brought us to meet again on Sun Island. He nodded slightly and greeted Jin Li. No. Lu Zhenjia looked at Jin Li. The expression on Jin Li's face became less enthusiastic, and she said perfunctorily, "Oh, long time no see." She looked at Lu Zhenjia and introduced him. "This is what I mentioned to you last time, the Duke of Cappadocia of the blood race." Lu Zhenjia remembered who he was for a second. It was the one who was cursed by Jin Li, the Duke of Cappadocia. He settled down in his heart, but his face remained motionless, and he nodded calmly. The Duke of Cappadocia glanced at him, as if he didn't quite understand what Jin Li had to explain about this ordinary human man. He asked, "Who is this?" "Jin Li, my boyfriend." Without introducing Lu Zhenjia, there was no intention of letting them get to know each other at all. The Duke of Cappadocia was a little surprised, turned his head, and took a serious look at Lu Zhenjia. It seemed that he wanted to see what was so special about the man Jin Li liked. "But after looking at it for a long time, I can't see anything abnormal except that it looks better." He looked arrogant, and his tone was a little puzzled. "He looks good, but what use is an ordinary person who doesn't know anything to us?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Koi Fairy Wife is Sweet as Honey, Love from the Koi Goddess. Author, Sushao Zhaji. Chapter 574. Hearing these words, Jin Li was not happy. People in the heavens live a long time, probably because their lifespan is too long, and their vision has become extra critical. There are not many people who can really catch their eyes. But once it catches the eye, it's like being one of your own from the bottom of your heart. My own people are better than others no matter what. In the words of the world, that is, to protect the shortcomings. She said angrily, "What's the use, it's none of your business. Get out of the way, I'm going back to my room." Duke. Really, few people have been so unkind to him. He should have been angry. But he remembered his purpose of coming here. He suppressed his internal anger and said in a low voice, "Miss Jin Li, can we have a chat?" Jin Li still remembered what he said before, and said angrily, "No, We won't talk. Duke. Before he could say something, the door of the next door opened. A Taoist priest wearing a blue Taoist robe came out and looked this way. Fellow Daoist Jin Li, what are you talking about? It was Qin Jiangzi. With a glance, he saw the Duke of Blood standing opposite Jin Li and Lu Zhenjie. Fellow Daoist Jin Li had a bad face. Something. Qin Jiangzi clapped his hands lightly, walked over here first, stood beside Jin Li and looked at the Duke of Cappadocia vigilantly. Our Taoist sect and the Blood clan have always had a good relationship. I don't know what the Duke is here for. The Duke of Cappadocia was very angry when he saw this bad old man. This old man is the best at extorting money. More vampires than vampires. He said coldly, I have something to do with Miss Jin Li. The implication is that people who have nothing to do with it go cool off. Qin Jiangzi yelled, and said with a righteous face, what's the matter? Just so everyone is here, there are many people and strength is great. If you have any difficulties, Duke, we can help you solve it. Duke. The labor and management are dizzy and still, so dysfunctional, can I tell you? He smiled on the skin, it's a private matter. Don't bother everyone. But Qin Jiangzi frowned, looking worried. Daoist Jin Li is such a young and delicate girl, how can we rest assured that she will be alone with the famous Blood Duke? Duke. Are you Huaguo's delicate and weak to describe girls like Jin Li? He was very angry. Just at this time, the side door opened again. Several more people came out. Because this floor is covered by people from Huaguo. Everyone came up and looked at the Duke. Jin Li also looked like I don't know anything, and said to the Duke of Cappadocia, yes, Duke, there is no private topic between me and you, I have a boyfriend people. When you have time, just make it clear in front of everyone, don't affect my innocence. Duke. If he said it in front of everyone, would he be ashamed? Finally, he left angrily. Jin Li looked at his back, pursed her lips, and looked back at the crowd. Thank you, everyone. They just came here to support her. Qin Jiangzi was about to be polite. Fellow Daoist Jin Li, you are welcome, we are all from the Taoist sect, so we don't need to pay attention to such nonsense. At this time, Lu Zhenjie said lightly, during the time everyone is in Sun Island, I will pay for all expenses. Qin Jiangzi, thank you both. See you tonight. The Koi Fairy Wife is sweet as honey, love from the Koi Goddess. Author, Sushao Zhaji. Chapter 575. After seeing off everyone at the daemon, Lu Zhenjie followed Jin Li into the room. He opened his mouth to say something, hesitated for a moment, and asked first, will others hear you if you speak here? Jin Li waved her hand, and an invisible barrier enveloped the entire room. No. Lu Zhenjie asked, I see that Blood Duke called you before, but now that the real person is coming to Sun Island, will he trouble you? Jin Li didn't care much. Well, it's possible. But I'm not afraid. Lu Zhenjie looked helpless. Jin Li looked at him and said with a smile, don't worry, I'm a little fairy. Even if he wants to trouble me, he's just thinking about it. Lu Zhenjie always felt uneasy. Ever since Jin Li promised to come to the Suanmen Exchange Conference a long time ago, he had a bad feeling. Always feel like something is going to happen. Jin Li, do you feel anything wrong? He asked Jin Li. He heard Jin Li say that she was the little fairy in charge of luck and could tell good and bad luck, otherwise ask her. Jin Li was taken aback. What's wrong? Lu Zhenjie considered it for a while. That's right, I've always had the feeling that something will happen during this trip to Sun Island. Jin Li subconsciously denied, no, if there is a bad omen, I will definitely sense it. She stopped and looked at Lu Zhenjie. Did you feel it? Lu Zhenjie nodded. Jin Li did not ignore Lu Zhenjie's feeling. She thought for a while and said, wait for me. She sat down cross-legged very seriously. Lu Zhenjie stood aside and looked at her. He watched Jinli sitting on the carpet, closing his eyes, and a faint silver light appeared on his body. Although he couldn't understand what she was doing, Lu Zhenjie didn't make a sound to disturb her. Until the silver light flashed, the coiled legs turned into a beautiful big tail. Lu Zhenjie. This is the second time. He saw Jinli's tail for the second time. His eyes widened in shock, and he looked at Jinli's tail in a good mood and delicately. The last time Jinli was drunk, he was shocked again, and only took a quick look. He vaguely remembered that it was a silver fish tail, but he didn't see it clearly. This time, there was enough opportunity. This is really a beautiful tail. The lines of the tail were beautiful, and every silver scale exuded a dense silver brilliance. Jinli's already astonishing beauty looked even more holy and unreal against the silver light. Lu Zhenjie gently held his hand. At this moment, he really wanted to go up, grab the person in front of him, and verify whether she really existed in this world. Jinli opened his eyes. At the same moment, the beautiful silver tail also turned into legs again. She frowned. I still can't detect any ominous signs. Lu Zhenjie breathed a sigh of relief. It's fine if you don't have one. Jinli looked at him, and the husband used to brag about himself, even I can't detect it. Under normal circumstances, that means it can't happen. Lu Zhenjie grasped the point, normal. Jinli nodded, yes, there are also extremely rare to almost impossible situations, such as you. Lu Zhenjie was stunned, me. That's right, Jinli blinked her eyes, yes, I don't seem to have told you. You are very special. Lu Zhenjie's heart skipped a beat, what do you mean? The koi fairy wife is sweet as honey, love from the koi goddess. Author, Sushao Zheji. Chapter 576. Jinli said, didn't I tell you that I can feel the inner thoughts of many people, can I see through everyone's luck? Lu Zhenjie nodded. Jinli looked at him, but you are special. From the first time I saw you, I couldn't see through you. I couldn't see through everything about you. This is a very strange thing. You know, even in the heavenly realm, there are only a handful of people who can't see through the little fairy. It was the first time that Lu Zhenjie knew how special he was. He remembered the stupid things he did when he and Jinli first met, and he was annoyed and curious. Since you found out that I was wrong from the very beginning, why did you reject me in the first place? Under normal circumstances, I am a person who is different from others, shouldn't you let me approach, and then discover the many doubts and secrets in me? According to the logic of the Overlord, the development of things should be like this. But he forgot that little fairies don't need human logic. When she heard Lu Zhenjie's words, she was very puzzled, why should I observe you and let you approach? She glanced at Lu Zhenjie, remembering how he looked at the beginning, her tone was a little disgusted, at that time, although you were good looking, you were like a fool, and the fish always listened to what you said. I don't understand, I'm a little annoyed seeing you. Lu Zhenjie. Jinli began to make up the knife, besides, there is nothing to dig out. Anyway, you humans only have so many decades in your life. No matter how many problems you have, I will sleep and people will not be around after decades. Why should I bother, do you have the strength to do this? Lu Zhenjie. There are reasons and evidences, but there is nothing to say. However, since you feel this way, then be more careful in the future, Jinli said. Lu Zhenjie, huh? Jinli said, that Blood Duke must be unhappy after suffering such a big loss. But he can't beat me, and if he wants to attack the people around me, as an ordinary person, it's me as a boyfriend, you must be very dangerous. She thought for a while and asked, is the Tianka silver stone I gave you last time still there? Lu Zhenjie nodded, yes. Of course, the token of love sent by the little fairy. He wears it next to his body every day, and he will never lose it. That's good, this one can protect you, Jinli said. Asterisk. When the two were chatting in this room, They were in a room on a certain floor of this hotel. The Duke of Cappadocia sat with a gloomy face, and in front of him stood many blood clans tremblingly. It was the young blood races who participated in the exchange meeting this time. With the age of the Blood Duke, it is inevitable that he cannot participate in this exchange meeting. He looked at the young juniors in front of him, and said in a cold tone, "In this exchange meeting, we will cooperate with the wilderness black mages. At that time, even if you don't get the first place, you must not let Huaguo take the first place." In fact, he said that he had no idea. He had checked before that Huaguo, a woman named Jinli, was only 24 years old. In other words, she can participate in this exchange meeting. With the strength of this woman, the Duke's heart sank. Which force would have such strength under the age of 30? What's more, Huaguo not only has Jinli, but also that young man named Long Hao. If it doesn't work, it can only disturb their vision. Isn't Jinli's boyfriend just an ordinary person? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Koi Fairy Wife is Sweet as Honey, Love from the Koi Goddess. Author, Su Xiaozhaji. Chapter 577. Jinli didn't know at the moment, so he made a random guess, and it was really right. The more I think about Cappadocia, the more feasible it becomes. If you confront Jinli head-on, the result may be a little confusing. But that ordinary man, he can't stay with Jinli 24 hours a day, can he? As long as he and Jinli were separated, their blood clan would have a chance. Judging by Jinli's appearance, he took this man very seriously. When the time came, they would use him to make Jinli submit. As for things that are not so glorious, the Duke of Cappadocia's face turned cold. Is there anything more disgraceful than blood sickness and inhumanity? As for whether there will be an enmity with the Suanman of Huaguo in the future, he is already ready to bleed. Take a step back and apologize. And he won't want that man's life. Huaguo Suanman can't completely turn against the blood for an ordinary human, right? His Excellency the Duke has arranged everything clearly in his heart. Asterisk. That night, Lu Zhenjie took his clothes and went to the bathroom to take a shower. The moment he opened the door, he felt something was wrong. But with a glance, he didn't find anything wrong. Taking another step forward, Lu Zhenjie stopped again. Something must be wrong. Although he was not a member of the Taoist sect, he felt inexplicably that his territory had been invaded. Lu Zhenjie clutched the clothes in his hands, looked at the spacious bathroom in front of him, and said in a cold voice, "Don't pretend to be a ghost, come out." There was silence in the bathroom. Just when Lu Zhenjie wondered if he was too sensitive, a circle of small water stains suddenly appeared on the dry and tidy floor in front of him. The water stains were getting bigger and bigger, and gradually condensed into a small puddle. Lu Zhenjie was a little flustered, but he remained calm on his face. Holding the clothes in his arms, he didn't step back, just staring coldly at the puddle where the water was still moving. Sudden. A black head emerged from it. Lu Zhenjie. Hold on. Don't panic. The more you are afraid of this kind of thing, the more powerful it is. Lu Zhenjie adjusted his breathing gently, and watched his body and feet slowly start from the beginning. On the floor that was supposed to be a solid ground, a puddle of water appeared inexplicably, and a person emerged from the water even more strangely. No, it should not be a person. On behalf of humans, Lu Zhenjie said that we humans do not have such a way to appear on stage. It was a woman who never knew whether it was the floor or the water. Lu Zhenjie thought in his heart that luckily this woman, let's call it a female creature, in appearance, except for being a little pale, she was not as scary as he imagined. The female creature raised her head, her face was still pretty, she seemed to be very cold. She opened her mouth and asked softly, "Sir, I'm so cold." Lu Zhenjie looked at her coldly with a straight face. 3 seconds later, he said, "Sorry, I don't understand Sun Mandarin." "What are you talking about? This woman seems to be an inhuman creature from the Sun Kingdom." "Female creature? This operation, the person who sent her didn't tell her." She was stunned for a moment in confusion, and said, "Then, I'll come back later." After speaking, she dived into the pool of water again with a poof, and disappeared again. The water on the ground also dried up. Everything seems to have never happened. Lu Zhenjie stood calmly in the bathroom. 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds. A minute later, it was confirmed that the unknown woman had indeed disappeared. Suddenly he jumped up. "Maid." Scared Dad to death. He picked up his change of clothes and sprinted for 100 meters, knocking on Jinli's door. The Koi fairy wife is sweet as honey, love from the Koi goddess. Author, Sushao Zhaji. Chapter 578. Jinli opened the door. He looked at Lu Zhenjie and asked strangely, "What's the matter with you?" Lu Zhenjie said, I just. Jinli opened the door and let him in. "Come in and say." Lu Zhenjie nodded. Just as he was about to walk in with his clothes in his arms, his footsteps stopped. He looked at Jinli, smiled, and asked in a low voice, "Jinli, we've been dating for so long, do you get bored? Do you still love me?" Jinli seemed a little surprised, tilted her head, and quickly laughed. "Of course I love you when I think of this question so suddenly." Lu Zhenjie took a deep breath, closed his eyes, stretched out his hand, and took out from his collar the stone that Jinli gave him, and squeezed it hard. Everything in front of him suddenly changed. He stood in his room with his hand on the doorknob, almost walking out the door. And outside the door, stood a woman. She was Jinli just now. But right now, she is just a paper doll with a human form. The eyebrows and eyes are drawn with black lines on the face, and the lips are painted with an unknown color, which is so bright red that it is ominous. She was standing outside the door, waving at Lu Zhenjie, but she seemed to be worried about something and didn't dare to come in. Lu Zhenjie didn't know what would happen if he really went out just now. The thing outside the door realized that Lu Zhenjie recognized him, and screamed rather unwillingly, "How can you break my blindfold? You are an ordinary person without magic power. Because I feel something is wrong with you. Moreover, Jinli would never say that she loves me." Boss Ba was thinking a little in his heart. He backed away slowly. The thing seemed unwilling, and stretched out its hand to grab him. But the moment the arm made of paper was about to touch Lu Zhenjie's body, a golden flame suddenly ignited. "Ah!" it screamed terribly. Golden flames burned all over his body, and soon, the paper man turned into a pile of ashes, and the ashes fell to the ground and disappeared in an instant. As if nothing had ever happened. Lu Zhenjie looked at this guy who seemed to be very powerful just now in shock, and was instantly stunned. He looked down at the small silver stone on his chest, and thought that his girlfriend was indeed a big shot. "Be sure to hug your thighs well." He closed the door, took out his phone from his pocket, and called Jinli. Unexpectedly, it was connected. He thought his signal would be blocked. "What's wrong?" Jinli asked. "Can you come to my room?" Lu Zhenjie asked. Jinli didn't know what he wanted to do, but he agreed anyway. Soon, there was a knock on the door. Lu Zhenjie carefully held the stone, walked to the door, and asked, "Jinli, I want to ask you, if one day I wasn't as handsome as I am now, would you still love me?" Jinli outside the door. She asked in a daze, "What are you talking about? Did I ever love you?" Just a little liking. Familiar feeling of pricking. But it made Lu Zhenjie feel relieved. He opened the door almost with tears in his eyes and let Jinli in. It was still the fairy face that made his heart flutter, but now it was full of a big brother-like, reassuring atmosphere. "You asked me to come. Jinli stopped. She glanced across the room, then landed on Lu Zhenjie again. You were visited just now, she asked. Lu Zhenjie nodded quickly. Sixth update. I was a little drowsy when I wrote it, so let me wake up with some stimulation. See you later. The Koi fairy wife is sweet as honey, love from the Koi goddess. Author, Sushao Zhaji. Chapter 579. He nodded halfway and asked, how do you know? Jinli looked around the room and said, the black air in the room hasn't dissipated yet, and... The tip of her nose moved and she frowned, it smells like a stench. What happened? Lu Zhenjie told her what had just happened. He can only talk about his own experience, and he doesn't understand many things at all. Jinli said, forget it, I'll see for myself. Lu Zhenjie. What do you think? Then he was shocked. His three views were refreshed. One of Jinli's eyes suddenly changed color. It turned to the same silver color as her tail. Numerous pictures appeared from that pupil of a different color. Everything that Lu Zhenjie experienced just now was completely seen by her in another form. When Jinli looked at Lu Zhenjie again, his eyes had returned to their normal color. She started with two sentences. The first sentence is, as expected of my boyfriend, so smart. The second sentence is, this kind of low-level sorcery should have no effect on you. Why are you deceived by blindness? Even if it was only a few seconds, it should be absolutely impossible for Lu Zhenjie. Lu Zhenjie. What are you saying? Jinli frowned. She thought for a while and said, stand still. At the same time, he performed an enchantment on Lu Zhenjie casually. Lu Zhenjie, she called his name, what did you see? Lu Zhenjie looked at her puzzled, what did you see? Still right. This kind of technique, which is not good for Lu Zhenjie, is still immune to it. So, how did that low-level demon spirit do it? But now Lu Zhenjie said, it was really thanks to the Tianke silver stone that you gave me just now, that monster wanted to catch me, but before it touched me, I was burned to death. Jinli glanced at him with a half-smile, no, that flame has nothing to do with my Tianke silver stone. Lu Zhenjie looked confused. Jinli walked around him, amazed, I didn't expect that I was wrong. Lu Zhenjie looked confused. Jinli, the flame just now made me feel a familiar aura. Lu Zhenjie looked dazed. Jinli didn't explain to him, mainly because she just felt familiar. What exactly was this breath, she forgot. Lu Zhenjie didn't know what she was talking about, seeing Jinli didn't intend to say anything, he could only ask, just now, what are the girl in the water and the paper figurine? Mentioning this, Jinli's eyes turned cold. Neither of those things seemed to have killing intent. Use this kind of prank against an ordinary person. Ah! Really harmless? Come on, come with me to find Qin Jiangzi. Let him avenge you, Jinli said. This time, the three people who led the Huaguo Taoist team. It's just that Shuelei Dao has a bad temper. If he hears about this, he will probably hold a sword to argue with others. At a glance, Long Hao is not a person who can do bad things. If you want to fight back, you still have to find Qin Jiangzi. What's more, Qin Jiangzi has always been very considerate to the rich father, and it is reliable to let him do things. What? Sure enough, when Qin Jiangzi heard what Jinli and Lu Zhenjie said, he immediately became furious. It's too much. It's too much, he was very angry. It's not good to bully anyone, but to bully Papa Lu? Don't you know that Papa Lu is responsible for the expenses of all the people? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Koi fairy wife is sweet as honey, love from the Koi goddess. Author, Sushao Zhaji. Chapter 580. What if Lu's father was so frightened that he ran back to the country and didn't reimburse them? Without the reimbursement from the big boss, but with the fees deducted by the Supervision Bureau, they dare not let go of food, drink to their heart's content, and have no energy to do anything. As soon as Qing Yangzi thought of this possibility, he felt that the person behind it was terrific. He stood up abruptly, and snorted coldly, "Don't worry, you two, I will definitely make him pay for such a cruel person." Jinli nodded, "Then leave it to fellow Daoist Qin Jiangzi." After speaking, she pulled Lu Zhenjia to leave. Lu Zhenjia asked, "Shouldn't we stand here and wait?" Jinli blinked and asked in a low voice, "Are you going to the top?" Fellow Daoist Qin Jiangzi is the head teacher of Mission. If Mission wants to scare people, then no one else has anything to do with it. Lu Zhenjia's expression froze, and he said in a very natural manner, "Well, it's getting late now, for the sake of our health, we still have to go to bed early." Jinli was very cooperative, "Not bad." The two bid farewell to Qin Jiangzi. Lu Zhenjia still held his clothes in his hands, and when he stood at the door, he hesitated. In case there is another wave of operations just like that at night, he is afraid that he will really have a psychological shadow. He looked at Jinli and was about to say something when Jinli said, "Come and sleep in my room tonight." Lu Zhenjia. Does happiness come so quickly? He couldn't help but wondered in his mind, if you are frightened, you will have such benefits, it seems that it is not so bad. Jinli didn't know what the cold and calm overlord had become in his heart, so he opened the door and let Lu Zhenjia in. "You take a shower first." She looked at the clothes in Lu Zhenjia's hands and hugged them for a long time. Lu Zhenjia nodded, "Okay." This was almost the fastest bath Boss Ba had taken in his life. He was wearing his pajamas, and for the first time he was annoyed that the pajamas he bought were too conservative. Tisk, the ABS don't even show. Can't reflect his masculinity at all. He looked at the spacious room with only one bed, and didn't dare to think about the right to sleep on the bed, so he said, "I'll sleep on the sofa bed tonight." Jinli glanced at him and shook her head, "No, you sleep on the bed." Lu Zhenjia. Is this okay? The happiness came so suddenly that he was a little dizzy. He coughed lightly, "This is so embarrassing." Jinli looked at him strangely, "What's so embarrassing?" Seeing Lu Zhenjia's expression, she suddenly said, "Are you shy?" Lu Zhenjia. No, not shy, obviously excited, and looking forward to it. It's a pity that Jinli doesn't understand. She said, "Don't worry, I won't take advantage of you. I don't sleep on the bed. I took a look. The bathtub in this hotel is so big and very comfortable. I'll just soak in the bathtub at night." "Where is the bed comfortable in the water?" Lu Zhenjia. With a thumping heart, the deer fell to the ground and died. Really? He thought sadly in his heart, you shouldn't expect Jinli to get enlightened, let alone expect her to give him benefits. In the heart of a fish, how can a boyfriend be happier than being in the water and spitting bubbles? He sighed sadly, fell down on the quilt forcefully, and rolled himself into a silkworm chrysalis with the other side of the quilt. Daily autism. 8 more. Proud to step on the spot. Good night, big babies, ask for a monthly ticket. The koi fairy wife is sweet as honey, love from the koi goddess. Author, Sushao Zhaji. Chapter 581. Lu Zhenjia lay on the bed, listening to the splashing water in the bathroom next door. Jinli probably used his tail to pat the water to play. With such a small bathtub, she played with it like an ocean wave. Lu Zhenjia couldn't help imagining the scene of Jinli slapping the water. His big silver tail was raised high, and he hit the water with a "beau" sound, causing a splash of water. Those flying water beads will definitely sparkle under the light, which is very beautiful. But no matter how beautiful the water droplets are, they are not as beautiful as Jinli's shining tail. As he thought about it, he couldn't help feeling a little distracted. Stop. Lu Zhenjia silently rolled around on the bed, freed himself from the quilt, and covered himself with the quilt again. It was probably because Jinli's room reassured him, or maybe the slight sound of splashes had a magical hypnotic effect. He thought he would lose sleep, but he didn't. Soon, he fell asleep. Lu Zhenjie had a dream. There seemed to be mountains, water, and many sparkling treasures in the dream. But when he woke up, he couldn't remember anything. I just felt that I slept very peacefully and energetically. He sat up, and didn't notice anything wrong at first. The boss who often travels on business is too used to waking up in an unfamiliar hotel room. Until there was the sound of splashing water in the bathroom. Then, Jinli, with her long hair loose, came out of the bathroom barefoot. "You're awake too," Lu Zhenjie. Jinli greeted him naturally. She was full of energy, her complexion was rosy and shiny, and she didn't look like she had just woken up. Lu Zhenjie stared blankly at her, and it took him a while to remember what happened yesterday. Oh, he was followed by something yesterday, and then he went to sleep in Jinli's room. He glanced at Jinli's natural expression. He didn't know whether he was relieved or disappointed. He also smiled. "Good morning." Jinli thought about it and said good morning to him. It was already daytime, and after Jinli made sure that there was no more prank, Lu Zhenjie quickly went back to his room to wash and change his clothes. When he came out again, he was a handsome and overbearing boss again. He ordered 2 breakfasts at the hotel, but they were not delivered by the hotel waiter. The visitor was a middle-aged man wearing the traditional Sun Nation robe. He pushed the dining car himself, and the breakfast in the dining car was 10 times richer than what Lu Zhenjie ordered. Lu Zhenjie was a little puzzled, and looked at Jinli. "Did you order extra food?" Jinli shook her head and glanced at the middle-aged man. "The lingering smell from last night has something to do with this man. 2 honorable guests, I heard that you were frightened here last night. This is a small apology, please don't take offense." He performed a Sun Kingdom courtesy to the 2 of them. The sweet-looking interpreter behind him spoke to the 2 of them in Huaguo language. Lu Zhenjie understood what was going on. So, this middle-aged man came to apologize. He looked calm. "So, are you here to apologize on behalf of this hotel? Or are you here on behalf of the messenger of those things last night? If the hotel is responsible for human beings, he can accept this apology. But if the instigator... It's not so easy to talk about." The middle-aged man's expression froze. "This has both." He said something to the 2 of them with a sorry face.